Good evening, Hell Rats, and welcome to Metal Mayhem ROC Live. I'm your host, Southern Cal. On tonight's show, we're going to be talking with Larry Barragan, guitarist from the band, Houston-based band Santa Oscuridad, along with Helstar and a couple other bands. Larry, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Hey, before we talk about the new single, the Ojas Así, if I'm pronouncing that right, tell our listeners a little bit about the formation of Santa Oscuridad. You know, is it true that it came about over drinks with little umbrellas in them?
It came over. It was over drinks, but it wasn't anything with umbrellas or anything like that. Rudy and I, the other guitarist, Rudy Rocha, who is also in a very well-established Tejano band, which is that's a kind of a music that is kind of a regional type music here for Texas. It's Tejano. He's been nominated for 3 Grammys, Latin Grammys. So yeah, he's been doing it for a long time, and we're really good friends. And he and I and our wives, we go out quite often, and this was no different. There was a night that we went out, and we were having some drinks, and we were watching a band that was playing rock en español. And if you know anything about rock en español, it's kind of like a pop type of music. There's not really that much rock in it. And I jokingly said that to Rudy, like, "Hey man, the only thing missing in rock en español is rock." And he said, "Well, let's do that. Let's put some rock in it." And again, going back to what Rudy does, that Tejano music is in Spanish. You know,
Yes.
it's like it's polkas, it's cumbias, it's like a dance type music. But Rudy's played. I mean, his heart is in rock, you know, but his, you know, he's made a nice living playing, you know, this other type of music. And I said, "Yeah, man, let's do that." Again, we were drinking, and so like, "Yeah, let's do that." And then a couple of the guys that walked off the stage that were playing on that night, they were friends of ours as well. And when they walked off, we said, "Hey, man, we're putting a band together. Do you want to join? Do you want to be our bass player?" And that was Ray Solis, who also plays in
Race
Love and
Leads,
War.
yes.
And Ray's like, "Well, with you two guys, yeah, I'm in." And so, like, sight unseen, I'm like, "Okay, well, I guess I better go home and write some songs." So I think that night I wrote like one song, and then over the next couple of nights I wrote a couple more, and I sent it to both Rudy and Ray, and I was like, "Well, you know, what do you guys think of this?" And they were like, "Yeah, this is cool. Yeah, let's run with this." And Ray knew uh, our drummer, Jaime Recio, so he said, "Hey, I know a drummer." And then the singer that was actually singing for that Rock en Español tribute band that we were watching, we said, "Hey, you know, what about Juan Ramirez on vocals?" And he said, "Well, let's see if he's down with it." And Juan said, "Yeah, send me the songs. Let's see what we got." And he wrote back maybe a day later. He said, "I've already written the lyrics for all these in Spanish." So we're like, "Oh, cool." So he came over, and I have the studio here in my house. So he laid down some vocals, and yeah, that was it. We just started kind of writing, recording as we were going along. Um, I don't think we really envisioned that these would become EPs. I thought, you know, we were just using them as a way to present the music to the rest of the members, you know. But eventually, yeah, that's what happened. You know, we kept recording these songs, and then I ended up mixing them, and was like, "Well, I mean, we have enough for an EP. Let's go ahead and put it out on our own." And that's what we've been doing ever since, you know.
That seems to be a trend now, with musicians and the bands not releasing full-length albums, more or less doing the 2 to 4 song EPs and lyric videos to go along with them. It's an attention span thing for the younger generation to keep them their attention for that long of a time. So I've noticed a lot of bands have gone back to just doing EPs and stuff. Your first one, it was a self-titled album, and then you released Dose as
Right.
another. I think there was 6 songs on that, probably 2, maybe.
Yeah, five or six songs on it. Yeah.
Let's talk about Ray real quick. You have Ray Solis. He was in the band Love and War. We recently talked to Jeff Vandenberg, and they had mentioned you guys and the whole Houston scene and how great of a scene it's becoming. There are a lot of bands going on there. Are you friends with a lot of these other bands that are around in the Houston area? Intermingling,
Yeah, actually,
changing out different players and this guys with these guys and a lot of different bands going on with a lot of the same guys, let's say.
yeah. I mean, that's just the way it is now. I mean, no one really just plays in the one band. You know, everybody. You know, if you're a musician and you're trying to make some money, I mean, you're gonna do some kind of cover band or tribute band, and then you've got a lot of musicians are doing the original stuff that they that it's really what they want to do, but for money you do it one
Right.
you do certain things, but
Kind of
yeah,
something
there's
maybe like Metal Wave, James Rivera and Metal Wave, something like
yeah,
that.
I mean that was just that was just something that James had come up with over the COVID months or whatever years. And he was like, "Hey, why don't we just do something like this?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Let's see what it sounds like." And we started rearranging the songs, and yeah, I mean that all of a sudden we got signed for that. That was not even our intention. We were just going to do this for fun and play a few shows, and that was it. And again, I had the studio here, so I was kind of doing the arrangements and recording the stuff just so everybody could kind of see what direction we were taking. And then, next thing we know, James said, "Hey, I sent it to the label," and they're like, they want to sign it. I'm like, "Whoa, okay, well, cool." So that's how
Nice
that
surprise there,
happened,
right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, uh, we're doing that. I mean, my wife said, "How many bands are you in right now?" I said, "I think I'm in like 5 bands at the moment, because I do Santa Oscuridad, Helstar, obviously, James Rivera's Metal Wave, James Rivera's Metal Extravaganza, which is just a fun cover band where we do songs from Angel Witch to Iron Maiden to Black Sabbath to whatever, Alice Cooper. We do all kinds of stuff. And then the South Texas Legion of South Texas South Texas Metal Legion, which is that's like, it's Mike Solis from Militia, it's Jason McMaster from Watchtower, it's James Rivera, and the guitarist from Carrion. So it's like all the bands that were in Texas doing it in the 80s. And we do each other's music. So that's a pretty cool little project that's going on there.
Yeah. Jason McMaster's a good friend of the Metal Mayhem show. We've talked to him a lot.
Jason's
great guy.
I've known Jason since the 80s, since the very first Watchtower lineup, so with Billy White. So we used to play with those guys and what turned into San Antonio Slayer. Back then they were just Slayer. So we, it all goes way back. So all those bands from the Texas metal scene kind of formed just one band where we play each other's music, and it's really cool. I enjoy it, and it's very fulfilling to be able to play some of those songs, because we were it wasn't that we were just in the scene with these guys. We were fans. We would go to the shows and watch Watchtower. We would see Militia and Juggernaut and Carrion, all the bands that were around at that time, you know. But, you know, unfortunately for, you know, the Texas scene, metal scene, we were in the middle. So we were heavy, but we weren't like, you know, that East Coast kind of heavy. And we weren't like Queensryche. We were heavier than like that kind of band, you know.
Right in the middle in Houston.
We were right in the middle, you know. So I think for a lot of those bands, it just for whatever reason the audience was not, you know, they wanted one or the other basically, you know. So and so unfortunately some of those bands just they fizzled out, you know, and but here we are years later still
doing it,
able to play some of those songs and bring that back to those people that were around at that time, and bring it back to some of the kids that have heard the stories from their parents, like, man, you know, back then, you know, these guys were badass, you know. And Watchtower just is about to get together and do their first, I guess, kind of like reunion show here in a few weeks, which everybody's really excited about.
Sure. Let me ask you, how is your singer Juan Ramirez doing? I know that he had a heart attack in February. Is he recovering well from that? And
yeah, man, that was pretty scary for all of us. But yeah, he's definitely back to singing. You know, he's done. Actually, he shot the video for Ojos Así after the heart attack. You know, so yeah, he's back around. I mean, you know, he's having to do all the stuff that you have to do after you have a heart attack. But yeah, we're thankful that he's doing much better, man. And thanks for asking.
Oh, it's good to hear. Well, you just mentioned it, Ojos Así. If my translation is correct, does that translate out into "oh well"? As
no.
A good translation for that?
It's Ojos Así is translates into eyes like yours.
So I was way off on that one.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually the original song was written by Shakira, and I think it was on her album, like second album called Descalzos. Whew, too many beers, but anyway, yeah, it was on that album, and I remember hearing it for the first time and going like, I'm gonna do something with that. You know, I really want to play. I want to play that song, and you know, here we are. You know, several years later, we you know, we had the chance to cover it, and every time we played it live, before we even recorded it, we would play it live, and I don't know what it was about the song, but girls would go crazy. They would do like, one time we played it, and these girls were in front of the stage and basically just simulating sex. And so we were like, wow, these girls like totally like got into the song and started doing that. And then we played it again, and again, these girls were like dancing. And then the next thing we knew, they were all like all rubbing on each other. I was like, man, we need to maybe like really record this song.
That's nothing like a front row at the 80s show of a Helstar show.
No, man. That's like the back. I mean, still, it's kind of like the joke that the singer from Overkill says, like, one has 1,000 balls and 2 tits, and it's an Overkill show. You know, it's like, oh, right. A Helstar show. You know, the same thing. You know, but yeah, I mean, that was happening, and so we said, hey, let's go ahead and record it. Once we recorded it, you know, that was it. You know, we said, let's go ahead and shoot a video for it, and we did it. Actually, we did it right here in my garage. I blacked it out, and we did, you know, some crazy lighting and flames and all kinds of stuff, you know.
Well, I get it. This is definitely some uncharted territory for me. When I first heard this, I got a lot of different influences, definitely the Spanish influence, that it's sung in Spanish, even like a Mediterranean feel And I think that was because of the violins that were in it. It almost made me feel like I was at an oasis, maybe in Tangiers, with sipping some cocktails. Very Mediterranean feel along with that. Tell us a little bit about the guest singer you had performing, the lady who was singing in that video with you.
Oh yeah, Christina. I've known Christina for a long time now, and she actually sang some vocals on the Helstar album Vampiro. There was like a choir on one of the songs, and she did like the higher vocals, and I did the lower vocals. And yeah, we've known her for a long time, and that, being that song was originally recorded by Shakira, we recorded it all with Juan, and I kept throwing, kind of saying, man, it would be kind of cool to do, maybe a duet with someone else, a girl singing. And we had asked a few girls actually, and they were like, maybe, I don't know. And I don't know if it scared them, or they were just like, it's metal, I really don't want to do it. And so I'd almost given up on the idea. And then Rudy's wife said, what about Christina? We're like, oh man, I can't believe I didn't even think about Christina. And she's fluent in Spanish, obviously. And so I called her up and I said, hey, do you want to maybe do a duet, record a duet for Ojos Así? And she was like, oh, yeah, I love that song. I know it already. So she came in and like 2 days later and knocked it out within, well, it probably took her like 2 hours to like just knock it out real quick.
Yeah,
And she probably would have knocked it out quicker, but I like, no, let's hold on, let's take our time a little bit. Let's make sure it's right, So I didn't mean to run it through the ringer, but I kind of did, like, no, let's do that again, So and everything is doubled, so I had her, double all the tracks and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, she's a veteran. She's played in the scene for many years now, and so it's always it always makes my job easier when you have musicians that you don't have to like second guess, or like, man, I hope she can come in and pull it off or whatever. She came in and she just knocked it out, so
fit like a glove there. Sometimes things happen the way they happen for a reason. And it's almost like you couldn't see anybody else really singing that. She nailed it. Perfect.
Oh yeah, for
Perfect
sure.
fit.
Yeah. And the other thing that's really cool is like, since with Santa Oscuridad, we don't really have any like limitations. So it wasn't anything where we thought like, well, no, what are people going to think? Or maybe we shouldn't do that or something like that. It was quite the opposite. Everybody was like, yeah, let's try that, and that's one of the things that I love about Santa Oscuridad is that, we're not pigeonholed or, put into a box where like, hey, this is your style and that's all you're going to do, so it's quite liberating and quite fun to be able to do different things,
Was the singing, the choice to doing and singing in Spanish, like a sense of cultural pride, let's say?
I think so. I mean, I always tell people like, well, I mean, it's my first language. That's what when I was a kid, that's all I spoke until I went to kindergarten and I learned English. And that's like kind of the same thing with all the guys in the band where, that's the language that our parents and grandparents used to yell at us in and scold us and get mad at us in. And so those are the, on Sundays and Saturdays on the weekend when your parents were cleaning up or your grandmother or your mother were cleaning up the house. So that's what we listened to. It was Spanish. It was mariachi music. It was rancheros. It was all these different types of Spanish music that we were just exposed to and grew up with. And so, as time goes by, you start speaking English, and the next thing you know, you're in a band and everything is in English. And as you get older, you're like, man, I want to do, when Rudy said, let's do it in Spanish, I was like, it wasn't even I didn't even second guess it. I just said, yeah, that sounds great. Not even knowing that or thinking that, at least here in Texas, metal in Spanish is super underrepresented.
Yes.
It's like us and maybe, a couple of other bands that are doing it, and the unfortunate thing is that there's so many people that speak Spanish, and it really needs, I hate to say we're heading that, we're the spearheading that movement or something like that, but in a way we kind of are, because we're not gonna back down. A lot of people said, are you guys gonna do anything in English? And I'm like, yeah, we did. We have one song that's in English, but it's just like the one, and the rest is all Spanish, and that's the way we want it.
Maybe it'll be the next thing. You never know.
You never know.
Grunge was going to be it. You never know what the next flavor of the day is going to be. That would be awesome if that happened. Larry, let's talk a little bit about your guitar playing. I've heard you quote yourself as saying you're not a shredder per se, but a great picker and placer of notes. Expand on that.
That's about right. Well, someone that, personally, I think of myself as about an average guitarist. Whereas, like, someone like my friend Jeff Loomis, he is, he's a phenomenal guitarist, and he shreds. And that's beyond what I can do, me personally, I like to, I can play fast, but that's not really the end game for me. I want for the solo to be, I want the solo to also tell like a story and to enhance the song. But I would hate for someone to go like, that song is wouldn't be shit if it wasn't for that solo. I don't want the solo to be like the main thing. I want the solo to be like kind of an icing on the cake. The song should be the strong point. If someone says like the solo is the best thing in that song, that means that the song that's a piss poor song. And
it's a good way of looking at it.
That would, I don't like that. It's always been about the song, and I don't know if people have realized this, but I make it a point, ever since the first Helstar album, ever since the second Helstar album, I always try to write one song with no solo. So if you go back to Remnants of War, a lot of people are like, oh, I love Evil Rain. Yeah, it has no solo.
I have all the Helstar albums, and I've never noticed that before, that there was a song on each of those that has no solo on it. I never even noticed that. That's a good thing.
That has no solo.
It shows you the strength of the song.
Exactly. And so, like, I guess on Distant Thunder, the song that has no solo is Horror Babylon. On Nosferatu, the song that has no solo is Harsh Reality. So it's something that I've always done, and it's a conscious thing, because I always, I like that you didn't even notice. You didn't even notice that there was no solo on it. And that's cool, because that means that song it didn't need it.
It stood on its own.
Holds up on its own.
You're absolutely right. How about Multiples of Black?
That album I didn't play. I had taken a bit of a hiatus from Helstar at that time, so I don't know. On that album, I didn't really play anything. I wasn't part of the band at that particular point, and I didn't write anything for that album. So it's kind of the black sheep of the family. We will play Good Day to Die from that one every once in a while, but that's that's about it.
I found that album to be one of the hardest to find on a CD back in the day.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
hard to find that one, but I found it eventually to
Cool.
round off the collection. You talk about symphonic music and the Hungarian minor scale. Explain that a little bit, if you could, to us.
Well, I mean, that whole movement back in once Ingve came out, and I mean, he revolutionized how we play, and so we were doing the same thing. We were doing a lot of the harmonic minor type stuff that had that kind of it had that Egyptian feel, but the Hungarian minor actually has, I think it has more of that Egyptian feel than even the harmonic minor, because it has this chromatic note in there that gives it more of a, I don't know, it's kind of, to me, it sounds a little more wicked, and one band that uses it quite often is Slayer. And that's why their stuff sounds the way it sounds.
Well, both those things you just said, they definitely come across in that single. It's like a dark Hungarian feel to it, I guess.
Yeah, I did. I used a little bit of that in the solo, and there's a few of the Helstar songs now that are kind of the same way, that were I wrote the whole song with that scale, so yeah, it's just it's one of my favorite scales to play in now. I mean, back then, we did a lot of the arpeggios, and everything was kind of, I guess, a little bit more shred like, back then in the 80s. But now, I mean, my focus has always been to make at least the Helstar songs heavy. I want them to be heavy. I don't really, obviously with James singing, I want him to be melodic, but it's not like the be all end all for me. First and foremost, I want it to be, I want it to sound dark and heavy, and
definitely conveyed, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about maybe some shows you have coming up. I know you have that Houston Metal Fest in March. You'll be playing with Helstar on that one. Mm-hmm. Any other shows?
Yeah, Hell's Hero. Yeah, we're doing we're doing, actually, Santa Oscuridad is playing in Austin at the Lost Well on the 9th, I believe. And then we're playing with Solicitor on the 18th here in Houston at Black Magic Social Club. And then we're doing, what else are we doing? We're opening up for Outlaw Mariachi at BFE in October. And then Helstar is doing Austin. I don't know the dates on that, but we're doing Austin, and then we're playing Mexico City to round out the year. And that's a big festival. Alice Cooper's headlining that, and Queensryche's on it. And it's a 3-day festival called, oh my God, let me get my phone. Oh, Life After Death Horror Fest in Mexico City.
Mexico City.
And the night we're playing, it's going to be Halloween. Us, Coroner, Dark Angel, Obituary, KK's Priest, Camelot, Queensryche, and Alice Cooper's the headliner that night.
That's a hell of a bill right there.
Yeah, and I'm so stoked because my very first show, my older brother took me to, was Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare. And so I'm like, oh man, I really want to meet this dude.
Well, I have to tell you, Larry, my very first brush with greatness artist was when I saw you guys, Helstar, open up. It was on the Remnants of War tour. You were touring with TT Quick, And I guess
TT
some
Quick.
shows with Megadeth, we didn't get the
Hmm.
Megadeth, and it was kind of like a weird. A lot of the shows up in Rochester, New York, were at a place called the Penny Arcade. This one was way out on the west side at a place called Art Stocks Playpen North. It was very different. You guys had played, and now we're watching TT Quick. I'm standing at the bar, and I look over, and it's James Rivera and Larry Barragan
Oh.
having a beer at the bar. And I swear it took me like a song before I got off the nerve to just turn right to my left and say, hey, hey, you guys were sick, loved it, fucking crazy. But you guys were my first two brushes with greatness, my first two metal artists that I got to meet. And it was a great show. And I loved Helstar. What a just an absolute great band. And it's nice to see you guys are still out there kicking it around.
Oh, what a great story, man! I wish I remembered, but yeah, I know we played. Did it snow that day? Was it snowing?
It was either snow
I
or rain. You're
remember.
up in Rochester, New York. It's snow or rain.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think I remember. God, I remember one of the shows with TT Quick where we played, and yeah, we hung out, and then we came out, and it was like snowing. And I mean, for some guys from Texas, that's just like we don't see that, you know. So I think we're like throwing snowballs at each other, and people were looking at us like, "What's wrong with these guys?" You know, not knowing that we don't get snow like that, you know.
probably no
And
snow tires on the van, I bet.
no, actually, I think you're right. We had to buy some kind of change or something, and yeah, I remember, you know, bits and pieces of that tour so long ago. I remember doing the shows with Dave um, and doing the shows with TT Quick. They were really great to us. You know, they were a really really good band, and you know, it's good to see the singer now, you know, doing it with Accept and stuff. So
Yep,
um, yeah, that was a really good show. I mean, I remember that whole tour was fun.
that's awesome. Well, Larry, I just want to thank you for joining us tonight on Metal Mayhem ROC. Good luck with the new single here, and it would be great do you see yourself as like a regional touring band or something that you might take out on the road if you had the chance?
Oh, we're trying to get it out. You know, I, I'm trying to do some European stuff with Santa Oscuridad. We'll see what happens. I've already started putting the feelers out there, and I've had a couple of bites, you know, and some people that are friends are like, you need to, you know, bring this here, you know, and so yeah, we're definitely wanting to expand and not just be like here in Texas, but you know, abroad. Definitely need to go to Mexico and play some shows. And I mean, if
Right.
we could take it to Spain, that'd be great. But our Spanish is kind of different from the you know, Castilian Spanish, but I think they still understand us pretty well.
I'm sure they
Um,
get the meaning of it. As long as you're banging
yeah,
heads,
yeah. I
jamming
mean, you
out.
know, sometimes we'll play here, and I mean, we opened up for Saxon, and and it was like no one had heard of us at that point, and we were opening up for Saxon, and it was like this. You could see the crowd, and it was a nice sized crowd. You could see the crowd kind of like, what is this? And then slowly but surely, you know, that you start seeing like people nodding their heads, and then we finished the song, and I was like, yeah. And then the next thing I was like, yeah. And then by the end, there was like this real frenzy. I was like, wow, this is cool. And some people told us afterwards, like, we didn't realize you were speaking in Spanish until like maybe 3 songs into it. And so I was like,
Like,
oh, well, that's cool. That means that the songs kind of, like I said earlier, the songs stand on their own, you know, that whether you understood it or not, you know, you still liked it, you know. And then to have that kind of reaction once they did realize it's in Spanish, you know, that was the payoff, you know. So yeah, we definitely want to get the band out there and play as much as we can. It's tough because you know everybody has different bands. You know, Ray's got Love and War, and I'm in Helstar, and Rudy's in La Fiebre. So
just
it's a
touring on
lot
its
of
own right
juggling.
now is hard enough for bands just touring. Tell
Yeah,
us
yeah.
about your social outlets. How our listeners can get a hold of you.
Yeah, you can go to. I mean, you can just look me up on Facebook, Larry Barragan, and basically you can just message me and I'll reply to you. I run my social media.
And are there any other
We're
outlets for Santa
yeah,
Oscuridad?
there's a Santa Oscuridad, Santa.Oscuridad.metal, I think it is, on Facebook and also on Instagram. No TikTok as of yet, but everybody in the band has their social media on Facebook, so you can always, if you know who's in the band, Jaime Recio, Ray Solis, Juan Ramirez, Rudy Rocha, and myself, Larry Barragan. You can just do a search on Facebook. We'll come up, and you can interact with us that way. If you want merch, same thing. Just ping us, and we'll get it to you.
Again, the new single "Hojas Así" by Santa Oscuridad. Get out there and check it out if you can. Great new band. Not necessarily new, but something new for Southern Cal, let's say. I highly recommend it. Get out there and check it out. Larry, thank you for joining us tonight on Metal Mayhem ROC. It was great having you here. And for Metal Mayhem ROC, I'm Southern Cal.
Metal for life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.